Where were you born and where do you reside today?
I was born in New York City, in Harlem Hospital, and I reside now in New York City, in Morningside Heights, beginning of Harlem.
When you were 12 years old, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, during my time of growing up, opportunities for women were very limited. So we thought primarily of very traditional roles. We thought of being a teacher or being a social worker. And I'm a social worker. And that is probably the only career I ever thought of it.
Where were you when you first discovered that you had the capacity to love in a romantic way someone of the same gender?
Well, I'm one of those stories of women coming out late in life. That population is becoming larger and larger. I had been married, I did what I was expected to do. And then at age 40, actually, I fell in love with a woman. And we were together for 30 years. I'm a late bloomer.
Where were you when this occurred, when you first met her or someone else?
We were both teaching at Cal State San Diego. We started as friends, and we became romantically and sexually involved.
Now let's revisit this 12-year-old thing. So the question is, what did you want to be when you were 12? So you wanted to be a social worker at 12? You knew what a social worker was, and that's what you wanted to be?
Yes. And that's also shaped by the fact that I was brought up in a household. My parents were both very strong activists in community work. My dad was a leader, and my parents were very, very race conscious. Very strong identification as a black person, we learned in the household, and a commitment to service, that we had a responsibility to other people, and that if we succeeded in great part because we were fortunate to be given the opportunities. So, and also my parents were both religious, so I knew I wanted a career in social work, but I had a foundation for defining what kind of social work I was going to be.
And what was that?
I was going to be one concerned with social justice issues. I was going to be one that worked in the community, and we who are social workers working in the community are still a minority group in the profession, but I knew I wanted to do that. And I knew I wanted to do something in my own community as a black person. So I think I was fortunate to come to the career with already a foundation of my understanding of what I was supposed to be doing.
What was going on in your world as a 12-year-old where you saw the need for you to become a professional social worker?
Well, first of all, my dad was very active in the union. He was president of the union on the railroad. And he would come home and he would tell us the stories of what was happening to the workers. So we always understood that there was social injustice. I grew up in Harlem. I remember some of the picketing and the demonstration going on in Harlem as a young child. People don't know there were riots there. So I had that kind of a background, like a sensitivity to who is around me and how are these people faring.
So how old are you now?
I'm 78 years old.
And are you still a social worker?
Yes, by profession, but I consider myself more a person who is involved in building institutions, and also a person who's involved in movement work, social justice movement work.
Think about yourself in the present. What gives your life meaning, and what makes your life worth living for?
That's interesting. What makes my life worth living? I have to tell you very briefly, about 10 years ago, I lost my partner of 30 years. And for me, this was a really dramatic world-changing experience. And I only got through it because of my faith in God. And I was brought up in a religious setting, but I had abandoned it. But I knew that if I was going to go forward with my life, I had to have faith. I had to have trust. I had to believe in something and some purpose higher than just living day to day. So I depend on my faith, and I depend on my strong sense of you do something when you see social injustice.
What makes life worth living for you now?
Sometimes I ask myself, because I'm all about work. I'm all about work, but really it is my work, it is my commitment to my community that keeps me going.
Now this is an interesting question. What if you met Jesus in person? What would you say or ask him?
If I met Jesus in person, I would say, please, Jesus, you need to be here with us, because in your name we find reactionary religious people claiming their sole right to Christianity, and that is not my concept of what a Christian is. So please, dear Jesus, come and state again what you understood and what you wanted your people to do, because it's been hijacked.
Are there persons who at an early time in your life or in the present that have been significant in shaping of your outlook on life?
Who has influenced my life? I would say my parents. I was, at a very early age, a student of Black history, because we had that all around in our home, even when we cannot afford much, because we're a large family. My dad always had the Black magazines. I was always going up to the Schomburg in the old building from my walking like 10, 15 blocks to get there. So I say in general, rather than a specific person, in general, the understanding that I was born of this history and that I have a responsibility to continue this history. The other person I would have to say is my partner, who was a very strong person who also engaged in institution building in her community. She was a Puerto Rican, and also had a very, very strong commitment to social justice. I just never expected I would find someone who so equaled my passion about what was wrong and what you were supposed to do about what was wrong.
What were the taboos in your early life, and how have you lived with or out of these taboos?
What were the taboos in my early life? That's a hard one. Well, I grew up with all of the things that girls were not supposed to do, you know, and you probably, everyone is aware of them. I also grew up in a home that was a Pentecostal and a holiness home. And I remember we couldn't wear makeup. We couldn't kiss boys. My parents didn't allow us to date until we were like 20. We couldn't wear pants. We couldn't go to the movies. Obviously, I've outgrown all of that. I would say I'm a very positive person, that I don't carry a lot of baggage about what I'm not supposed to do. And I don't think my life has ever been tied up with the don'ts. It's been motivated by what can I do. And once I understand I can do, it just takes me to the next level of, okay, what do you do next?
Can you indicate how the taboos in your life have changed?
Well, at this age, 78, how the taboos have changed. At 78, it's kind of difficult for people to tell you what you are supposed to do and not supposed to do. And secondly, you have a history. I have a history of what I'm capable of doing. And I know that no one can tell me you can't do that, because I've proven in my own life, and I'm very humble about this, but in my own life I've proven again and again that these are the things that you can do. You're not limited by the fact that you're a woman. You're not limited by the fact that you're a lesbian. You're not limited by the fact that you're black. And I understand that people will have those things that they see as taboos, but I don't see them as taboos.
So
Challenges.
So I guess in that sense, you don't see any taboos now. Maybe not for yourself, but in the community. What are the taboos now?
Well, let me say in terms of taboos for myself, let me go back and say, I would not kill anyone. I would not intentionally harm or do a negative to someone. So for me, those are taboos that I've learned, and they are still taboos that I live by. In that sense, yes, they're taboos. What I find in terms of other people and the way they respond to what they receive as taboo is that we don't, for instance, prepare our young people enough to know that those are taboos imposed on you by other people. Some of those you will internalize and you will feel they're right for me, but the majority of them are things that imposed and other people are defining you. And so, there are many of them still in our community.
Like?
Blacks, kids, or black males are supposed to act this way, or black females act this way, or you don't, I don't even know anymore, you don't do certain things. But for me, I don't accept that. I define what is my limitations.
What relationships or groups are most important as a support for your values and beliefs?
My church. I'm a member of Riverside Church. It's very important to me in shaping who I am, my values as a Christian person. I'm the convener of LGBT faith leaders of African descent. That was formed, myself and other members, as a way of reinforcing our own sense that we were people of faith, that we were people who were committed to social justice, and that we were people who were visible in our sexual orientation. So that is a support around what I do. I feel enriched by them. I feel engaged, and I feel motivated.
How has your faith impacted your journey?
Well, as I said, with my faith has allowed me to be here today, because following her death, I would not have wanted to stay here. And I have said this on other occasions. I said, I thought of suicide. I couldn't do it, and I said, dear God, if you want me to be here, you have to help me see what will be my purpose as I go forward. And I understood that I was told, you're here to do the work of LGBT, same gender loving advocacy in your Black community. And that's keeps me going. That's what my faith allows me to do.
How has your faith or life objective progressed from your youth to now?
Well, growing up in a Pentecostal and Holiness church, big church here in New York City now, Refuge Temple, I went to church and I would stay in church all day. And my experience with church in many ways was a good thing, because it was the community that I took out of that experience. My dad was very active in the church. He was the treasurer in the church, and we were his kids. So everyone would say, oh, that's Deacon Ward's daughters, that's Deacon Ward. So for us, that was extended family, that was community. And actually, that's my early experience with faith. And now I see it both in terms of community, but I also see it in terms of personally, the meaning of those faith principles, those Christian principles to me. I didn't see that as a kid. I mean, I heard, treat each other like so. But it didn't take on meaning until I'm an adult.